She stole a CEO's wallet to pay her mother's hospital bill, not knowing he was the father who vanished. Zuri knew the market streets of Accra like the lines on her palm. Hot, cracked, alive with noise. She darted through the crowd barefoot, weaving past vendors, ignoring the stares. In her small, trembling hands was a sealed envelope with a red cross stamped on it, the hospital bill. Her mother was inside, chest heaving, barely conscious. Malaria, advanced. And now the nurses wouldn't touch her until the money came. Zuri was only 9, but survival had aged her. She wasn't crying. Not now. She'd done that already when her mom first collapsed in the middle of the church steps. Now she was running because she had one last shot. She'd seen him earlier, the man in the navy suit with gold cufflinks, stepping out of the black SUV like he owned the sun. His wallet had peeked out just enough when he paid for something, carelessly. A thick, expensive wallet. Leather that didn't belong here. She waited until he turned, surrounded by bodyguards but distracted by a call. She didn't hesitate. Zuri lunged. A clean snatch, her fingers fast from years of practice. But the second the wallet was in her grasp, a voice thundered behind her. "Hey!" She turned and bolted. She didn't know his name, didn't know he was a CEO, a man feared and admired across the country. All she knew was that money meant a doctor. That wallet could buy her mother more breath, more time, more life. But Malik Grant wasn't the kind of man who let things slide. He chased her himself, fury in his eyes. Not just because of the theft, but because, for a strange, fleeting second, when he saw the girl's face, something in him cracked. He didn't know her name either. Not yet. Zuri ran like the ground was breaking behind her. Through the alleys, past shuttered kiosks, over puddles slick with oil and rain. The wallet clutched in her fist felt heavier than it should have, not because of the money inside, but because she knew what it meant. She wasn't just stealing, she was gambling. If she got caught, she'd lose more than the money. She could lose her mother, and she couldn't afford that. Behind her, Malik didn't stop. His suit jacket flared as he chased her through the maze of the city's underbelly, his polished shoes hitting the ground like thunder. He could have let a guard handle it, but something about her face unsettled him. A flicker of recognition? No, he shook it off. She was just another street thief, bold, fast, and desperate. He'd seen hundreds like her, or so he thought. Zuri ducked under a broken gate, twisted into a corridor that reeked of fish and smoke, then vanished into a tight row of cement rooms stacked like forgotten boxes. She pounded on a metal door. An old woman opened it without a word. Zuri slipped inside and pressed her back against the wall, gasping. She looked at the wallet. Her hands shook as she opened it. Money, thick notes. She stared at the largest one, eyes wide. It was more than enough. Then she saw the ID tucked into the inner sleeve. The photo made her pause. A face with tired eyes. The same tired eyes she saw every night in the mirror. She blinked hard. Malik Grant, the ID read, CEO, 48, address in East Ridge. She didn't know that name, but something about the shape of his mouth. It stirred a memory she'd buried long ago. A photo her mother once tore in half. A name never spoken in their home. She shoved the wallet into her pocket and ran back out the door. She had the money, but she also had questions. And the most dangerous thing for a girl like Zuri was hope. The nurses didn't ask where the money came from. They just took it, counted it, nodded, and rolled her mother into a treatment room. Zuri stood frozen outside, arms crossed tight against her chest, shaking not from fear, but from the crashing wave of relief. Her mother was still breathing, still here, for now. She sat on the hospital bench for hours, knees pulled up, head buried in her arms, but her mind wasn't quiet. That face, that wallet, that name, Malik Grant. It echoed. The longer she thought about it, the more pieces started clicking. She remembered her mother once crying in their one-room home, whispering to someone on the phone, "You don't get to disappear and show up when it's too late." She was 8 then. She thought it was about a debt. But now, Zuri wasn't so sure. When her mother woke up, weak and sweating, Zuri didn't say anything at first. She just fed her a spoon of broth and wiped her forehead gently. But the tension built like a rising tide. She couldn't hold it back. "Mama, do you know someone named Malik Grant?" Her mother froze. Zuri saw it. The blood drain, the breath catch, the spoon tremble, a name like a ghost entering the room. "Where did you hear that name?" her mother asked, her voice dry but sharp. "I saw it," Zuri said, "on a wallet. I took it." Her mother sat up straighter than she had in days. Panic flared in her eyes. "You stole from him?" Zuri was confused. "Do you know him?" Her mother looked away. And then she whispered something Zuri would never forget. "He's your father." The air felt like it left the room. Zuri's chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "I mean," her mother said, eyes full of pain, "he left before you were born. I never told you because I didn't think he'd ever come back. I never wanted you to feel abandoned." Zuri stared at her. No words. Just heat, confusion, anger, hope, all mixing into something she couldn't name yet. And then the door creaked open. A tall shadow entered. Malik Grant had found them. For a second, no one moved. The hum of machines and distant hospital chatter faded into silence as Malik stood in the doorway, his silhouette sharp against the fluorescent hallway behind him. He wasn't flanked by security. No driver, no entourage. Just him. But his presence filled the room like a storm cloud. Heavy, charged, waiting to break. Zuri's heart hammered in her chest. She stared at him. The man from the ID, the man whose wallet had saved her mother's life, and now the man her mother claimed had vanished before she was born. Her legs trembled, but she didn't flinch. She stood between him and her mother, her tiny body tense, protective. Malik's eyes locked onto the woman in the bed. "Naomi?" he said. His voice was deep, quieter than she remembered, but still carried that edge, the same voice that used to say sweet things and make promises before it turned into silence. Naomi didn't respond. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Her hand clutched the thin bedsheet like it could shield her from memories. Malik stepped inside. "I came to get my wallet," he said, eyes flicking to Zuri. "But I think there's more to this than I understood." Zuri didn't back down.
"She didn't tell me who you were. I figured it out."
Malik looked at her again, really looked. Her cheekbones, the shape of her eyes, even the way she stood. It was like staring into a mirror of the past. He swallowed hard. "I didn't know," he said, almost to himself. "I didn't know you existed." Naomi let out a dry, bitter laugh. "Of course you didn't. You stopped picking up the moment I told you I was pregnant." His jaw tightened. "That's not how I remember it." She raised her voice, frail but sharp. "Because remembering the truth would make you a monster." Zuri turned to her mother. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Naomi's eyes welled. "Because I didn't want you chasing someone who ran away." Malik stepped forward. "I didn't come here to fight. I need to know the truth. All of it." But Naomi wasn't ready to forgive, and Zuri wasn't ready to trust, and none of them were ready for what came next. Because outside that hospital room, someone was watching. He thought it would end in that room. A quiet confrontation, a few harsh truths, maybe even a chance at redemption. But Malik didn't know how deep the wound had gotten. He didn't know the weight Naomi carried alone for a decade. He didn't know the streets Zuri walked barefoot, the nights she went hungry, the moments she begged God to let her mother live one more day. And he definitely didn't know someone was outside that hospital door, listening. Zuri saw him first, a man in a red cap, standing too, still near the nurse's station. His eyes kept darting toward the room. At first, she thought he was just another visitor. But something about the way he avoided eye contact, the way he whispered into his phone with his back half turned, made her stomach twist. Inside the room, Malik was trying, his voice lower now, honest, even if it was years too late. "Naomi, I didn't walk away to hurt you. I was scared. I wasn't ready. And when I finally came back, you were gone." Naomi turned her face to the window. "I didn't vanish. You stopped looking." Zuri stood between them, arms crossed. None of that matters now. You left. She stayed. She fought. Malik nodded slowly. You're right. And I won't ask for forgiveness. But I can still help. Zuri's eyes narrowed. Why now? I saw your face, he said. That was the moment I knew. And I felt something I haven't felt in years. Regret. Just then, the door burst open. The man in the red cap stepped in, eyes cold, voice hard. You think you can just walk away from what you owe, Mr. CEO? Zuri stepped back. Malik tensed. Naomi gasped. This wasn't about the wallet anymore. The man pulled something from his coat. Not a weapon, but papers. Legal, threatening. I've been tracking you for months, he said. You destroyed my sister's company. You're not the only one with a past. Zuri's world spun again. The man she'd hated, the man she'd maybe started to forgive, had enemies too. And now, those enemies had found her. The hospital room was no longer safe. Not just because of the man in the red cap, but because the truth was bleeding into places it had never touched before. Malik, the powerful CEO with the gold cufflinks and armored image, now stood exposed, not just as a father who vanished, but as a man whose sins were still hunting him. Zuri stepped protectively in front of her mother again. Her instincts sharpened. Who are you? She demanded. The man's smile was tight, bitter. Name's Kwame. And your father there? He crushed my sister's startup, stole her ideas, then walked away rich while she died broke. Malik's jaw clenched. That's not true. Kwame flung the papers down. Then explain these. Emails, contracts. You knew exactly what you were doing. You used her. Naomi looked up slowly, eyes narrowing. Is this true? Malik's silence spoke louder than any answer. Zuri looked between them, confusion giving way to betrayal. First, her mother's secrets. Now this. She wanted to scream. She wanted to disappear. Instead, she grabbed the papers and ran out of the room. Down the corridor, past nurses, into the alley. She needed air. She needed space. But she wasn't alone. Kwame followed. Not with anger, with curiosity. You didn't know, did you? She turned to him, furious. You came here to destroy him, not help us. I came here for justice, Kwame said. But maybe this isn't about him anymore. Maybe it's about what you deserve. Zuri blinked. What? You're his daughter, he said. That means you might be entitled to everything he's trying to hide. Maybe it's time someone taught you how to take it. Inside, Naomi and Malik were arguing. Outside, Zuri faced a man offering her something no one ever had, power. But at what cost? Because if she took it, there would be no going back. Zuri sat alone behind the hospital, legs pulled to her chest, staring at the documents spread across her lap. She couldn't read every line, the legal terms blurred together, but she understood enough. This wasn't just business. It was betrayal. A betrayal that went beyond her mother, beyond her. This was the kind of thing that ruined lives. And the man tied to it all was her father. Malik Grant. For days, she'd imagined what it would be like to meet him. Even before she knew who he was, even when she hated him. She thought maybe, if he saw her life, if he saw how hard her mother fought, maybe something would shift. But now he wasn't just a ghost who disappeared. He was someone people were coming after. Someone who'd left wreckage behind him. And somehow, that wreckage was her inheritance. Kwame returned quietly, no longer the aggressor, now the strategist. I know you hate me, he said, but I don't want to hurt your family. Zuri's voice was low. Then why are you here? Because I've watched your father buy his way out of every consequence, he said. But you? You could make sure he finally faces something real. She looked up. What does that mean? Kwame knelt beside her. You're his blood. That makes you powerful, maybe even more than him. We go to the press with these documents. You tell your story. Or better, you sue him yourself. From the inside, expose him. Let the world see who he really is. Zuri's throat tightened. She didn't know how to be that kind of person. She wasn't a weapon. She just wanted her mom safe, her life quiet. But maybe that wasn't her path anymore. Maybe the fire in her chest was something new, something earned. Behind her, the hospital lights flickered. Inside, her mother still fought for every breath. And down the hall, Malik was sitting alone, waiting to know whether he would finally lose everything, including the daughter he had just found. Zuri stood. She had a decision to make. And when she walked back into that room, someone would break. Zuri walked back into the room like someone reborn. Her hands still trembled, but her spine was straight, her face unreadable. Naomi looked up first, her eyes searching, hopeful and afraid all at once. Malik sat beside her, elbows on his knees, his once pristine suit now wrinkled, face buried in his hands. For the first time, he didn't look like a CEO. He looked like a man who was losing everything. Zuri stood in the center of the room and pulled out the documents. She didn't throw them. She didn't shout. She simply placed them on the table between them, like evidence in a trial. "You said you didn't know I existed," she said, her voice calm. "Fine, but you knew what you did to her." She pointed at the name on the papers. Kwame's sister. A woman who'd trusted him, worked for him, helped him rise, only to be cast aside the moment her usefulness ran dry. Malik didn't deny it. He just looked up, tired. "I thought I could justify it. I thought building something bigger would make it okay." Zuri shook her head. "It didn't." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "Zuri, baby, don't let this poison you. Don't let his choices take away your heart." But Zuri wasn't empty. She wasn't broken. She was awake now. "I'm not doing this for revenge," she said. "I'm doing it because we deserve better." She turned to Malik. "You want to help? Then stop trying to fix things with money. Start with honesty. Start with this." She slid a paper toward him, one she hadn't shown Kwame yet. A document that would allow Malik to transfer part of his holdings to a trust, one Zuri would control, to care for her mother and for herself. No press, no lawsuit, but it came with a condition. "You tell the truth," Zuri said. "To me, to the board, to the public, everything, or I walk." Malik stared at her, silent, cornered. He thought money could erase history, but he was finally learning. The girl who stole his wallet wasn't stealing anymore. She was taking back power. And outside, Kwame was waiting, ready to burn it all down if she chose the other path. The next morning, the headlines hit every screen in Accra. Malik Grant admits corporate sabotage, confirms secret daughter in public statement. Cameras swarmed outside his headquarters. Investors panicked. His board demanded answers, but Malik didn't flinch. He walked into that press room alone, no lawyer, no PR agent, and read the statement Zuri helped him write. His voice cracked in places, not from fear, but from the weight of what he'd hidden. The people he'd hurt, the daughter he didn't raise. He didn't make excuses. He named names, including his own. He admitted to burying competitors. He admitted to knowing about the stolen ideas. He admitted to walking away from Naomi when she needed him most. And then, for the first time in his life, Malik Grant said the words, "I was wrong." Zuri watched it from the hospital room, her mother resting beside her. Naomi's eyes were closed, but a single tear slid down her cheek. Whether it was grief, release, or something in between, Zuri couldn't tell. But she reached out and held her mother's hand tight. Kwame never got the chaos he came for. No fire, no scandal, just the truth. And somehow, it stung more than destruction. He left quietly, but not before slipping a note into Zuri's hand. "You did what I couldn't. You changed him." But Zuri didn't feel like a savior. She felt tired, heavy, changed. She didn't know if she could ever forgive Malik, but she could respect what he did. And in some strange way, she knew he respected her now, too, not because of her blood, but because of her will. A week later, Malik returned. No suit, no SUV, just a quiet man in a plain shirt, holding 2 bowls of jollof and a small bouquet of wildflowers. Zuri opened the door. He didn't ask to be called Dad. He just asked if she'd share a meal. She didn't answer, not with words. She stepped aside. Let him in. But even then, she kept one eye on the door. Because forgiveness, like truth, doesn't arrive all at once. It knocks quietly and waits. 3 weeks later, Zuri sat at the edge of a classroom she never thought she'd enter. Clean walls, wooden desks, the hum of a working fan overhead. It was nothing like the world she'd known. Her uniform felt strange on her shoulders, too crisp, too new. But it was real, paid in full. No loans, no begging, no theft. Just a future, hers. Malik didn't force his way in. He didn't send more money. He sent presents. He showed up to every doctor's appointment. He sat in silence when Naomi needed space. He apologized in small ways, washing dishes, fixing light bulbs, learning how to be there without control. Some nights, Zuri still lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if any of it was real. If this man, this stranger with her eyes, would vanish again. If her mother would collapse again. If it was all just a calm before another storm. But then she'd look across the small room where Naomi now slept without pain. She'd remember the day she bought medicine with stolen money. The day a wallet opened a door no one could close again. The day truth demanded its place at the table. One afternoon, Malik handed her a folded letter. Inside was a photo, old, worn, of Naomi pregnant and smiling, standing beside a younger Malik, his hand on her stomach. "I kept it," he said. "Even when I told myself you weren't mine, I kept it." Zuri held the photo like something sacred, like a seed of something not quite dead. She didn't call him Dad, but she didn't hand the photo back either. Because sometimes healing isn't loud. It's a quiet decision. To stay. To see. To speak. Not to erase the past, but to rewrite what comes next. And in the streets where she once ran to survive, now she walked. Head high. Future hers. If that ending gave you chills, share this story, because some reunions are written in pain but spoken in love.